Hi guys, a very warm welcome to our channel. Today we have a very special guest, Saurabh, and Saurabh will be sharing his insights on how to make a career in stressed asset industry, and especially how a chartered accountant can make a career. Very warm welcome, Sir Saurabh.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me. So,
Okay.
yeah, I've been there in the stress market sector for about 2 years, and it has been great. So, I would like to share that perspective from an entry level, or a junior level role. And yeah, so I'll talk a bit about myself. I am a chartered accountant, and I'm someone who's born, brought up in Mumbai. So did my graduation from Narsi Munji, and I actually belong to a family of CAs, so I've always been pivoted or inclined towards this entire field. And during my college days, was a part of my college fest, and also did my articleship along my graduation, wherein I worked in Deloitte. And during my articleship, I audited Procter and Gamble India. And post my CA, that was back in somewhere in 2018. For a few months, for about 6 to 7 months, I worked towards the expansion of one of my family businesses, which is a granite plant in Chittorgarh. And post CA, I also of course wanted to join or have a corporate role in the buy side, and I was lucky enough to get a position in Edelweiss CRC, the largest CRC in India. I worked there for about 2 years in the role of acquisition and resolution strategist. And during that time, I learned a lot about the entire stress market. And I would say that it also helped me out on a personal note, because using that experience, I was able to acquire a food processing plant for my own family. So making gradual shifts towards ETA on the personal side, entrepreneurship through acquisition. And on a personal note, I enjoy gaming. I love watching anime, sort of a nerd in that manner, and also spend some time towards education and working in a bit of children NGOs and stuff. So that's more or less about me. And yeah, glad to help you out with whatever I can, whatever I know in the stress field.
Amazing, Saurabh. I think that's very nice. So quickly jumping on to the agenda for the day, can you just briefly touch upon what exactly do you do in your role on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So on a day-to-day basis, when it comes to stress market sector, and in layman language terms or in simple terms, it's exactly a sector that has come into place after everything has happened with respect to business, right? At the very end. And so there are two roles to it. One is acquisition and another is resolution. Acquisition is one where you end up buying the asset or the loan. In proper terms, these are loans, right? Loans that banks end up giving to promoters. So you end up buying those loans, end up evaluating at what price you can buy. If the loan is for 100 rupees, and in the stress market sector, in today's term, what is the real value of that account? Let's say you can maximum make about 60, 70 rupees. So you buy at that price. And when after you end up buying it, you look for ways to resolve the entire account. You try to work with the promoter, try to look after all kind of legal methods, resolution strategies, so that you can recover it at a particular interest rate. So it's more or less resolving stress accounts that were not able to work properly or were going through bad loans or bad debts. So that's the main idea about stress industry.
Okay, wow, great. And so a couple of things. First of all, since it's a very
Sure.
niche industry, what are the typical employers, if we can talk about that?
So it is a niche industry as on date, but I will tell you this, that we're looking at about 10 lakh crores of bad debts as on date and NPAs. So of course it is meant to grow. It is a niche sector in our country as of now. And when it comes to employers, I would say that the senior management are at the end of the day employers, right? And the senior management are people who have been in banking all their life. They have been in the disbursement sector and the loan sanctioning sectors, and those are the guys who usually end up leading ARCs in the stress field. And with the senior management, of course, come in the investors, the QIBs, the foreign investors who want to make money out of this, because you end up buying at a cheap price. You get assets at cheap price for their value. So that's how the entire thing works, and it's mainly bankers.
Got it. And typically, so I'm just assuming that typically there'll be chartered accountants / MBAs, right?
Lot of CAs and MBAs. Yes, those two would be the main, qualifications that everyone would be having this field.
Okay, Got it, got it. And can you also touch upon sort of how to get into this profile, especially a young chartered accountant, who's just who wants to make a career in
Right.
stressed asset, right? So how he can get into this profile?
So I will say this that stress market is currently booming, and since I worked in an ARC, at the end of the day, it is more about the sector. ARC is just one of the entities or part of it. So there are various roles where you're on the sales side, where you're working towards in due diligence agencies, where you end up supporting ARCs and acquisition, or you're working in private funds who are there to disburse money in such where you are directly buying away asset from insolvency and bankruptcy codes and all of those. So there are a lot of junior level roles, both in ARC, in sell side and buy side. And I think all you have to do is, these days everyone is opening up with these, boutique firms where they're concentrating on the stress field because it's booming. And also there are big fours as well. All of them have their own restructuring departments these days. Even banks have their own restructuring departments. So a lot of players in the market, and all you have to do is approach. I think a CA degree is good enough for an entry level, because what you really require in this field is a balance of finance and legal. A lot of legal work, if you ask me. It ends up being a bit more about legal at times. So CA covers up that in terms of finance, and of course we have a lot of legal knowledge as well, surface C, and also we have IPC in our curriculum. So I think that degree helps you out.
Right, right. Got it, got it. Okay. And so moving on to what are the kinds of skill sets which are required for this profile, right? One you already mentioned was the
Right,
legal, having a good
right.
knowledge of the law, right? So apart from the good knowledge of law, what other skills you think, soft skills are required?
So I would primarily say three skill sets. One is finance, second is legal, and third is high EQ or negotiation skills. Because so I'll start off with finance. When you're acquiring an account, or the amount you expected to get out of a particular account, you can only derive that once you are able to financially justify that acquisition or get to understand its numbers, right? How much it's going to give. So you require those finance skills as first, to understand how much you're going to get out of that account. Second, in order to get something, you need to work under the legal, within the legal framework, right? So for example, you end up buying an asset, but then and its value is 50 rupees, and you want to sell it, but then you realize, as per legal frame, I cannot sell that account at all. So that entire 50 rupees makes no sense. So you have to know your legal framework. You have to be in touch with the latest amendments and rules in Surface C, DRT, IBC. These are all stress related, legal frameworks. And third point is your negotiation skills. So I would say a lot of patience and a very high EQ. Because over here, you're dealing with promoters who are at their very last leg. They're trying their level best to save, to gather whatever they are left with. And many times it's hostile as well, right? So if someone's not doing that well with their company and you want to make money out of it, you might need to sell their asset, and no one would like that. So a lot of negotiation would go into it. A lot of cooperation as well, because at the end of the day, what you want is to cooperate with the promoter. That's how you get the best results. So yes, good EQ, good negotiation, and a lot of skepticism. We'll see a lot of lies in this field. People making tall claims because they really want to say what they're left with, and you need to understand how to, uh, how to go through them and understand, which one's right, which one's false, which one's true. So that's more or less it.
Right, right, right. I agree with you. Okay, perfect. Moving on, so can you just also touch upon exactly how to make a switch into this profile? So let's say a person comes coming from audit background, or let's say tax background. If he
Right.
wants to make a switch in this career, how can he do that?
Uh, I think switch in this career usually. So I would say that. So first, I would say that people would usually enter this field in the latter half of their career. Okay, of course, there is a lot of opening and position for junior entries as well right now because of the booming business. But in terms of senior, you'll always find them moving into the later half, because that's how the entire cycle is, right? Once you have banking and then you have experience, you've gone through all those years, you have the experience, you move on to a private sector, which ends up being stress because you have the experience. And when it comes to shifting, it's usually these guys only. Audit and all, they can of course apply and try, as long as one has experience with their financial and legal aspects. I think one is good enough. but it's more about making those shift from the already those who are already in the very cycle of this entire lending business. It's usually them who go towards the stress side. And also these days there's a huge inflow of foreign funds, and people know that there is money in the stress field. So you'll see a lot of PE funds and all of these stress funds investing a lot. So that manner, if you try and get into one of those private equities or private investment funds, you can get an entry as well.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. And sort of typically, what are the growth prospects in this? So let's say I'm start with an asset reconstruction company, right? And what are the typical opportunities if I want to exit from, let's say, this sector?
So uh, when it comes to exiting this sector, one should realize that this is the very last sector, right? It is the last phase. And exiting only ends up being shifting from one place to another, shifting to bigger accounts or bigger funds. I'm talking about exiting in terms of job shift later on, but it's more or less when you shift to bigger accounts, get bigger responsibilities, handle greater clients. Apart from that, I don't think there's as such any shift, and just maybe difference in the form of entities, but the same sector again.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so coming on to the last question, any tips that you would like to give to young chartered accountants who want to make a career in this sector?
So I would say, if you really want to start off at this place as your entry point or your career point, three things. If you're really interested, one, if you are interested in a blend of finance and legal, if you like, there are a lot of CAs who prefer going through CS, completing their CS or completing LLB and all of that. So if you're interested in legal and a proper blend, this is a very good place to start and work in terms of your career. Second, I also see that ARC sort of has a flatline structure, wherein if you work hard, if you're able to get your recovery, then you're recognized, you're noticed, and a lot of autonomy and a lot of responsibility is also given in terms of control of your accounts. So someone who likes having a flat structure in terms of reporting and who likes getting that kind of responsibility can, enjoys these kind of negotiations and these skill sets, then definitely do enter it. And third, I would say that, third, I would say that there is another place where, you can start off with banking or any other kind of IBs or due diligence agencies, learn those parts, and then later on in your life, you can make a shift to stress sector. So, first two really end up for those guys who just want to start off. Third is for mainly those guys, who can think of stress sector as an opportunity down the line. So these three I would be, saying for anyone who's looking at the sector.
Okay. Okay. Amazing. Amazing. That brings us, I think, to the end of the agenda that we had. Thank you so much, Saurabh. It was a lovely and very insightful small session. Thank you so much. For those who want to get in touch with Saurabh, I'll share the link for his LinkedIn profile, and feel free to contact him.
Thanks, Veer. Appreciate it a lot. And I would love to help out anyone who wants to know a lot more can definitely contact me through the IDs and addresses given by me. So thanks a lot, guys. See ya.